Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Exiled, The Chosen Ones, an action movie from 2022 that stars Sonny Pang. This is an actor who has appeared in some fun action films over the past decade, including Headshot, The Night Comes For Us, and Havoc. This was directed by Ranjit Marwa, who also appears in the movie. I'm unfamiliar with this director, so this was an introduction to his work. Now, this is technically a British-produced movie, but there's a ton of Indonesian influence in the production, both in front of and behind the screen, so I'm reviewing it. The opening text within the movie says the following. After a man-made virus failed to reduce the world's overpopulated areas, global leaders resolved to institute a new program that would legitimize a new venture, a game show. To make things interesting, the game would be broadcast in a daily live stream that would soon become The Chosen Ones. Random contestants would be exiled into this concrete jungle, which is basically some old, decrepit concrete buildings, forced to kill each other for their freedom. Viewers place their bets on who has the best chance for survival. Be that as it may, no one survives the game. So early on, I was wondering if this would perhaps be a mix of like Battle Royale, The Running Man, and Gymkata. And if you haven't seen those movies, I recommend all of them. Gymkata in particular is cheesy action trash. But anyways, back to Exiled. Some of these characters survive in this game show to the death for hundreds of days at a time. So apparently this game is like drawn out, perhaps an unending affair, because although the participants frequently die while fighting, the powers that be are continually adding new players to fight to the death. So okay, that sounds kind of interesting. But there are many plot holes that emerge even during the first act of the movie. So for example, some of these characters have survived for hundreds of days. But where do they get their food and water, right? I don't believe that was ever addressed in the film. Maybe I missed it, but I don't think so. But there's like a lot of stuff like that. Also, the structure of the game is very ambiguous. You know, these players just kind of wander around or even hide until they cross paths with another player to fight. And, the similar movies that I previously mentioned all had some kind of rule set or situational elements that made them interesting to watch. Bells and whistles, as I like to say, that add some flavor and fun during the non-action moments. This movie does not really do that. Everything's very ambiguous. The rules there really aren't that many rules at play and stuff like that. Not a lot of detail. That's the non-action stuff in this is kind of boring. In the movie's defense, there are some statistics that pop up. Like when a new character shows up, they'll stop and show some statistics about them, indicating days survived, number of kills, and survival rate. And they added a little bit of fun to it. You know, you get a quick feel for the players in the game when those statistics pop up. And that was probably the best non-action element that I enjoyed the most. In fact, I wish they would have added a few more statistics and just pause the movie so I could kind of contemplate okay, it's almost like characters in a video game where you see the stats, the starting level stats. So that was pretty good. I like that. The story is wafer thin. The dialogue can get pretty cheesy, and the acting is a bit stilted. This was shot in English, even though there are a lot of Indonesian actors in this. They speak good enough English, and I assume it's because it was a UK production. So, that's fine. Although the acting does get stilted. In terms of the actors, Sonny Pang gets a lot of screen time, which is what I was hoping for. However, Oka Antara, who appeared in The Raid 2, and Hana Al-Rashid, who appeared in The Night Comes For Us, were very much wasted in this, I think. I was disappointed they were not allowed to shine, in this one. And because they were involved in those prior films and shined within those films, I was looking forward to them as supporting actors in this, but they didn't do a whole lot with them. So this is a 73-minute action flick with a flimsy script. Whatever. The main question is this: does the action deliver? The fights are filmed fairly well in this. They use wider shots, multiple consecutive hits in a row. However, there are some tiny edits at times during the punches and kicks. So even though the camera angle really doesn't change much, so a guy will be punching and there'll be a tiny edit to like the second half of the punch. You know, so there's a tiny little gap in time missing during the punch, which, you know, maybe they used it to increase the speed of the strikes and maybe some impact. I don't know, but a little odd and unconventional, but it was moderately effective, I guess. One of my primary criticisms of the action is that most of the fights are perhaps a bit too short, and they lack a bit of excitement. There are a bunch of fights in this, but they should have been a little bit longer, you know, each. The good news is that there is one legit lengthy fight at the very end of the movie, and it was good. On the negative side, again, some of the kill scenes are pretty abrupt and even occur off-screen. Not all of them, but some of them. There is some nastiness and violence on display. Even some of the makeup effects are pretty good, but it's inconsistently presented. I was wondering if the filmmakers lacked a healthy special effects or practical effects budget for the blood and the gore, and after watching the movie, I suspect that this was the case because the overall production values are very low in this, with limited locations and stuff like that. So it just felt more like a cheap action flick, even when compared to other Indonesian action films from the last 10 years, a few of which I've mentioned. So as a final assessment of the action, it was fine. You know what I mean? It was fine. But like all of the other non-action elements bring the film down that extra notch. And at the end of the day, I think Exiled, The Chosen Ones is not a movie I'm really ever going to watch again. It is streaming on Amazon if you want to give it a chance, but you know, it's not a terrible movie, but I don't officially recommend this. So, as always, folks, I'll see you next time.